My name is Roxanne. I'm the coordinator of Indigenous Achievement here at the University of Manitoba. We are meeting today on the original lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, OG-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and on the whole land of the Métis Nation. The water that we use on this campus and in the city of Winnipeg comes from Shoal Lake. And while we're able to access clean water from our taps, for 22 years the residents of Shoal Lake 40 have lived under a boil water industry. I think that's important for us to remember. Today's talk will feature an elected councillor from Shoal Lake 40, Roxanne Greene, along with Shawn who is with the faculties of Engineering and Architecture. Their talk is called Shoal Lake 40 Feasting Shelter, and it is about a partnership that was made between Shoal Lake 40 and the U of M. And this is a project that was supported through the Indigenous Initiatives Fund, which is currently accepting applications. And if you're interested in applying, you can go to umanitoba.ca/indigenous, and proposals are due December 6th. So before I pass the floor over to our speakers, I'd like to thank Randy O'Reilly from the faculties of Architecture and Engineering for co-hosting this event and taking care of many of the logistics, as well as Erin. I'm sorry, I didn't get your last name. Okay, so Erin, right over here, some new words to both of you. And I'd like to tell you a little bit more about today's speakers. So Roxanne Greene is an elected councillor for Shoal Lake number 40 First Nation. Her education is in Aboriginal governance, and she has over 15 years of experience as a professional facilitator. Her passion, besides developing capacity in her own community, is traveling to other communities and assisting them in achieving their vision and goals through various methods of facilitation. She is also a strong advocate on issues such as community wellness, First Nation housing, and human rights. Roxanne currently holds the Economic Development and Community Engagement portfolio and is actively promoting youth-led economic development initiatives in her community. She lives in Shoal Lake with her family and enjoys writing, reading, and fishing in her spare time. Shawn is a Métis architect with the Manitoba Ontario Association of Architects and a member of the Royal Architectural Institute of Canada. He was born and raised in Kenora, Ontario, and has spent his childhood on Lake of the Woods and on his dad's trap line. His background has provided him with a strong connection to the region. His design work seeks inspiration from Lake of the Woods and the surrounding boreal forest. The Royal Danish Academy of Fine Arts, School of Architecture in Copenhagen, and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or better known as MIT, conducted a series of workshops based on the material research from his design thesis. Shawn holds the Indigenous Scholar position in the faculties of Architecture and Engineering. He has been centering his research on a collaborative approach to design that works with, rather than for, Indigenous communities. Please welcome Roxanne Greene and Shawn Bailey.
So thank you so much for coming, everybody. It really means a lot. They did a really good introduction of ourselves, and I think it would basically cover about the first 8 slides. So we'll just go through that really quickly. Like I said, Roxanne, I don't know if you wanted to say anything additional about your introduction.
No, oh, is it on?
Yeah, it's on.
No, other than just thank you so much for coming and listening to our presentation. And I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you leave a little bit more knowledgeable. Thank you.
So like I was introduced, I was born and raised on an island in Lake of the Woods, and we had no road access for much of my childhood. So we had, my dad used to make this ice boat, windjammer, with a propeller. It was like a rice boat. And yeah, we always used to travel that in between seasons, use the winter roads in the winter time. And me and my sister used to boat to school every day. So I've had a strong connection to the region. This is a picture of Lake of the Woods. This is, you know, spending much time out there, you begin to realize the conditions and be connected with the conditions out there. So as it becomes foggy, you know, or if it's windy, you know you're not going to be able to see shore. So you have to learn how to read the landscape, and I think Roxanne knows that you know, running in the boat at night, you kind of begin to read the silhouettes of the land, and it's something that you just become inherent with and approach with. You know what ice conditions are good and bad? Black ice is better than white ice, and this is sort of a necessity for living out in the country. This is just an image of I went trout fishing one day, and the shores were going, and so I just knew you have to put a plank out to the ice because at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to make it back to shore. So it's just kind of understanding that environment in that intuitive way. I try and make sure that I'm out in the wild. I try and get out every weekend, bring my dog. We use the landscape as to build relationships, and this talk is going to be a lot about building relationships. So me and my dog, me and my friends going skiing, hiking, we try and do that all the time. I also promote my daughter to live in this way too, so I always bring her out to the landscape. We always go fishing and try and spend those times together. This is my wife, Shannon. She's the superintendent of education for the Kenora-Patricia District School Board, which is the largest school board in Ontario, and her platform is Indigenous integration. So this sort of dialogue and relationship building that I've watched her in her school community has really grown. And also this is my dog Marley, and she's even a part of it. She's a therapy dog for Greene School. So part of the things that my wife does is bring in a lot of cultural integration. So this is wild rice harvesting, teaching the Indigenous and non-Indigenous students how to process. Bringing in and teaching them how to skin animals, and this is sort of their playground where, you know, sticks and rope and make stuff. So this very forest school sort of attitude. And so this watching her building these relationships made me interested in doing the same thing sort of at a scholarly level. So in 2017, there was an Indigenous housing competition, which Roxanne was part of. And this is how we were introduced. Oh, she presented, and I approached her after and asked if we could use this project as our studio project. And I don't know if you wanted to sort of talk about the housing competition and your experiences with it.
Sure. It was really exciting to be a part of this housing competition. And the last time I was here was presenting on this competition, so it's nice to be back here again. The Indigenous housing competition was a really good experience to be on because it allowed me to share with all those that are also part of Powell the realities of housing in First Nations, which are not up to standards of everyone else's housing quality. So, and that's huge in this country. That we live in Canada. Canada is one of the top countries in the whole world. So we should be proud of that, right? Also, go Bombers! But in the same breath, there's also a lot of inequalities when it comes to First Nations housing. And in our own very backyards, we have communities that are living in terrible conditions. And a lot of people don't realize that because they don't really know the histories of the communities and the First Nations people. And so for us to start looking at this issue here, it is huge. So Shawn mentioned earlier that we have a Freedom Road. Yes, we do have a Freedom Road. We never had housing in our community for years. And I just want to share within the last year, we've had 9 houses up and going just this year, which is super awesome for us. So I'm super excited about that. And I guess one of the things for the Indigenous housing competition, a lot of the submissions were more geared towards, here's an idea, this is what we should do, but there were very few submissions that talked about developing housing from the community up instead of from outside into the community. So that's important too, and that's one of the things that Shawn stresses is developing that relationship and figuring out ways where we can work together.
So I'll just go through some of the students' work for this competition. There was 5 design quartiles: vision, place, sustainability, community, growth, and funding. And you could choose all of them, or you could choose to individualize them. So if those of you not familiar where Shoal 40 is, there's Winnipeg, and there's Shoal 40. It's about 150 kilometers east of the city, and you can see sort of the main aqueduct there. So the first approach to doing the project was, collaborating with the community. So we brought the community, and this is a really neat experience because this was the first time many people have ever been on an Indigenous community. Actually, it was the first time that a lot of people have ever really experienced the land, which was really interesting to me. So we met with Roxanne, we did a tour of the site, looked at all the potential sites that the students could sort of imagine what their architecture could be. And this is just a picture of the community. I believe that's the existing feasting shelter, correct? Yeah. This is over the duct.
The first, that's the canal.
The canal, right, yeah. And this is some of the student work. So this is called Shoal Side Landing. The project celebrates spiritual and cultural connection to the land. The architecture of housing aims to form a symbiotic relationship with the homeowners. The intent was to improve and nourish the spiritual well-being through connection to nature into an emotional sublimity. The house uses local materials, connecting its homeowners to the land while promoting sustainability. The house pays respect to culture and tradition by embracing bio-original design and responding to nature and land. And so he was really, this student was really based on sort of experiential drawings and sort of what it's sitting at the table and seeing the outside, and how you can bring some of those exterior conditions within that space, and the ritual of bathing and cleansing. This project called Hover, the project addresses the issue of isolation for inhabitants of Shoal 40, a common issue shared with other remote access communities across Canada. The physical isolation of the island walk community carries with it the togetherness, especially for people living in a more temporary or unfamiliar condition, such as those transitioning into adulthood, young families, and in an aging population. So this student wanted to create a community-based environment structured with a layering of spaces from public to private, allowing opportunity for more social interactions and shared experience between members in the communities. I remember going to the site, and one thing Roxanne mentioned that kind of families occupy areas of this site. So this was about more gathering of families and how it could expand on that. And so these are some of those other drawings. This is Adaptable Home. This project focuses on the quartile of growth. It aims to generate flexible and adaptable spaces that can accommodate multiple generations and changing family dynamics. The center core of the home is a small family unit, and then it which accommodates up to 10 people, but then its modular units can be kind of connected to it. And the idea is sort of this prefab and on an 8.5-foot grid. Screens and panels in the modules provide a sense of privacy, while their translucency provides soft glow of light connectivity between adjacent spaces. This project called Tectonic Rhythms, or Slits and Screens, and it's sort of the idea here is about the architectural moves that reflect the dialogue of the local landscape, the blending of single-family home with a flexible commercial space responds to the needs of empowerment through housing and economic opportunities. So having economic opportunities within their home, because I believe there's a community store in the community right now in somebody's home, or there was, correct?
There's two.
There's two. This is a restore houses. So one thing I really was excited about, sort of creating this area for smudging, and it was this really nice sort of birch bark tested wall that allowed the light transfer, so you're really kind of connected with nature. And this was architecture that has the capacity to harmonize the relationships of its occupants through spatial quality. So he divided up the room with a series of screens and just basically communal gathering and offer a sense of privacy. This is a sharing table. Shared spaces within and around home intend to create a variety of opportunities of gathering, socialization, and traditional knowledge sharing. The architecture uses design strategies to enhance the connection to culture. So all these design ideas that have been brought about were meetings with the community, and Roxanne also coming down here for design reviews and giving feedback, and that was when we saw the power of, you know, talking and designing with each other as a really, really strong factor. This is permeable house, and it addresses the cost to gain access to clean water, electricity, food, and other basic human rights. Homes are falling into disarray, and many opt to pay for communities over maintenance. So, with no roads, no clean drinking water, maintaining to their homes, residents are faced with unsafe and inhumane living conditions. Prelim research led to consideration of the Portal sustainability placed in community Portal. Proposed of off-grid homes, 2 homes, sort of shared amenities, and self-sustainable. It was a self-sustainable home. Also looking at the shared interior and exterior spaces. This is another project in the housing competition that described the awareness to the plethora of issues regarding Indigenous housing in Canada. Current methods have sort of distanced the community from the land because there's sort of these INAC, right, those houses that are just put and not really thinking about the place, which is what I think is important that this project really does, is really sort of begin to think about the place. And so after that project, we approached the winter, that happened in the fall term, and we approached the winter term. And what we did in the winter term is, now that we know that Freedom Road is coming, the students speculated on what kind of opportunities that would provide for the community. And so again, we met with the community members often and just chatted about and had these sort of design sessions about, you know, what can we imagine here in the future. And so this is one project. It's to establish a local food base to fulfill the needs of the community and provide the opportunity for import and export with surrounding communities, keeping traditions of living off the land while boosting local economic development with resources gained from gathering, hunting, fishing, and trapping. A mixed-use building comprised of a market, a butcher shop, a bistro, and a greenhouse. A place of engagement by members of the community where locals can produce, buy, and sell crafts. So the idea here was to sort of make this economic development and bring in people from surrounding communities, especially sort of tourists, to come in and kind of celebrate that culture. And those are some of his renderings of the space. More renderings. And so, situated again on Shoal 40, this project focuses on the propagation of intergenerational education while blending harvesting cultural practices with present-day activities. So it's sort of looking at that forest school that Shannon was looking at earlier. All ages are welcome within the center, promoting intergenerational community. Additionally, the design integrates into its surrounding landscape, demonstrating the importance of retaining a connection to nature. These are sort of some renderings of the garden. So there's this sort of really nice community kindergarten area that has planted, or has medicines planted, with this gathering space on the outside. This project called Weave. So outdoor program includes a Powell grounds for dancing, an amphitheater for drumming, an outdoor kitchen, dock access for boats and canoes, and road access for vehicles. And I believe that the community doesn't have a Powell grounds or a place of ceremony. And I don't know if you want to talk a little bit of the history of why that is.
Oh, wow. Long ago, our traditional Powell grounds were our new bank, or our old bank office used to be, and we didn't have Powell grounds, I guess, for the last 40, 50 years or longer, because a long time ago, they were banned. So we didn't have certain ceremonies, so since then, we've just never revived our ancestral Powell grounds since then. And then, with us not having year-round
So this project, we've earned a Canadian, this is by dominant, it earned a Canada Greene Building Council Award for students leading in sustainability. These are some of the renderings. So the idea was to have a sawmill and be able to use material right from the site to build the thing. And it was positioned on the water. I remember conversations about what that drum and what that celebration would hear right on the water. It's almost kind of a move to make, here we are and we're here to stay. And these are some of the renderings of her intervention. And the program had a series of different other, like, it had some community, it had a store. And sort of the interior of the courtyard. And so the next project was looking at a powwow ground. So we again, you know, the nice thing about going into the Shoal Lake and working with the community is that everyone is so excited and interested and wants to be a part of it. So we had Lauren Red Sky, he was always kind of following us and talking with us, and he was the one who kind of like came and asked about this project, and he was really amazing to work with. And so now we're going to Shoal Lake and we're going to design for them a ceremonial space.
And I just wanted to add, with that, when we take on all these projects, we also have to respect the land, the culture, and the traditions. So there's a protocol that we follow in which we did with all of our projects to honor that the land, the traditions, and the spirits and our ancestors. So that's really important because without that, we're not going to have that success at the end, because we want the blessing of the ancestors and the land to make the project successful.
And so for this project, Lauren prepared for us a pipe ceremony, which was a really amazing experience. And that's sort of broke all, it was an interesting ceremony because it sort of set the stage for a really successful project. It provided just good intentions throughout, which was a really nice way, a good way of moving forward. And so again, these are more site images of Shoal Lake and commercial fishing, right, Roxanne?
Yeah, we've got a lot of commercial, we have a couple of commercial fishers back home. So again, when you live back home, there's a lot of additional activities to do. Fishing is all year round, whether you're in a boat or ice fishing. That's something that I do every year, and I'm really looking forward to ice fishing next weekend.
They're driving on the ice already. Crazy. Yeah, another picture of the barge, Amic, which is beaver, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's beaver. So this thing, we had a love-hate relationship with it because this was our lifeline to get to the main island at one point, right? And a lot of the times it would break down, or when it was freezing up, it was really hard to break through all that ice. And we had a lot of different prices throughout the years, so it was never dependable. And now that we have our freedom road, we still have the barge, and we're trying to sell it. So if you know any buyers, and we joke around about, let's have a party on it and sink it. But yeah, it's some people want to keep it, some people want to get rid of it, but that was our barge that we relied on for so many years.
What happened when it broke down?
Oh, when it broke down, you're pretty much SOL. And when it was thick enough for you to walk, even then you're risking your life walking on that ice. Sometimes you have to push a canoe or a boat, have one leg inside the boat, the other leg on the ice fishing. So it's a lot of stress during those times.
So these are the students exploring the site. We went to the site a lot, or 3 or 4 times in the fall for this project. And this was the site for the Powell grounds, and I believe it was chosen by elders, correct? And so this is an aerial view of the site, which is sort of in that big area right there. And sort of the students that participated in this project. One of the things we were asked to do was make a tobacco tie on the site and offer the site gifts. And maybe you can talk about the tobacco tie, kind of its importance.
Yeah, it's basically making your offering to the ancestors and to the land and asking for that blessing for the project to continue forward, and to also make sure that everything's done safely and in the right way, so there's nothing bad happens along the way, like the student might get injured or things like that. So those things are really important to us, and we apply that to
So this is a picture of the fall harvest, and the students there's going to be several proposed types of buildings on this site. This student proposed looking at a place for more for harvesting meat and processing things from the land. So this is kind of a picture of section elevation and sort of a model. And this is a study drawing of Brianna Marassi looking at the site, the Powell site, doing a site analysis, trying to find the best location for it, and doing a series of study drawings, looking at relationship and how this thing can be related to the land. And one thing that came out in her proposal was that active movement, that active dancing, the movement of the dancers. And so this theme sort of progressed through her project. This is, just some model shots of her trying to develop what the arbor is, but what are the seating and what other programming is happening. This is a really nice drawing of an aerial drawing, kind of showing that connections, the directions, and also that movement. And this is a study of acoustic study for the drumming area, and again, adding material research. And this is her model of the arbor. This is the final, which is this quite beautiful model on a big piece of wood, talking about the rhythm and movement. And this is from an exchange student who was really interested in getting into the culture. And this is her proposal for the Powell grounds, and this is sort of how it situates on site. This is a multi-program, so it had restaurants, it had places to eat, it had an elders area, and this is sort of the view of it. And so the top part, she was playing with the fabrics and sort of like how they can be retracted and close up and open up. But all these relationships and all like our meetings on site, it became this really nice, comfortable way of working together. And so we came up with the next project, and that's Freedom Road is built. And now let's build something on the site. So we ended up kind of collaborating, and we decided that a feasting shelter would be a really excellent a project to do a design build with. And I don't know if you want to talk about the beginnings of that.
Yeah, in the early conversations we talked about, okay, let's build something that's big, and let's build something that's gonna remember the milestone that we achieved by having Freedom Road. And once we started talking, getting more into the planning of the project, we going to the community and asking them what they would like to see next. So this is not something that we just decided on our own that, okay, we're going to build a feasting shelter. We asked community members what they would want to see next. So if they wanted to see a feasting shelter, and they wanted it to be on a newly built Freedom Road. So the feasting shelter, I'm always proud to say that is the first structure built on the Freedom Road. I think it's beautiful.
This is the site, and it's a really beautiful site. It's just on this point, and you have this, this 360, but a 180 view of the land, and you can see sunset. You can feel like you're kind of sheltered from the wind off the lake. It's really, really beautiful. And this is our first bringing the students out into the land, and that's sort of the site. And here, Warren also did a ceremony just to get the project started out the right way. And we met here with the community and discussed sort of what this thing is going to become. And sort of, again, we explored the site and talked with community members. They gave us a tour of existing buildings, what their school is, that feasting shelter that they have now in the background, the arena, and it was just this really great day, and we had lunch. And then while we were meeting, the site was cleared and getting ready to go and get started, and for parking and so just more exploration on the site, and you can see there's the cabin in the back. He's the one who kind of cleared the site, and he was just ready to go. He was so excited just to start clearing.
And I just want to point out too, you can see all the pictures that Shawn is showing us, different classrooms, visiting different sites. Well, this is a partnership that took time to develop. Because that's important when you go into a First Nation community and all of a sudden you want to build something. Well, we didn't just do that, but we started from scratch and then we developed it and then now we're building. So this took a period of over 2 years. And when Shawn would come with the students, it was like he became what would you say, a regular in the community. Oh, that's just Shawn and the students, you know. So it was really good to see because a lot of people are starting to get to know Shawn and know that they're not just like a bunch of strangers coming in. So that took time to establish.
And so we left the community and we came, and this was engineering and architecture students. And so we predominantly engineering, I think 3 architecture, and the rest were engineering students. And this is us just beginning to getting the design process going, starting to build models, getting to think about what this thing could be. It was a really nice way for the engineering students to kind of like be, and architecture students as well, that relationship and that working together and kind of sharing ideas. There's this really great quote from one of the students that said, "Oh wow, architecture is just not sparkles." So that was like one of my favorite quotes. And so yeah, I thought what they learned from this is seeing the value in both disciplines. And so we were invited for, this was an event that Roxanne put on, and this was the Elders and Youth Day. And we were invited and we got to go and watch a powwow, and I'll let you describe what this event was.
Yes, so we had a 4-day event to celebrate Greene celebration, and how we developed each day was one day was dedicated to the men, one day to the women, one day to the elders, and one day to the youth. And we designed it that way because that's how we structure our First Nations governance back home in the community. So this day was dedicated to the elders, in which they wanted to find powwow. So this is the day that Shawn and the students came, and the members had a chance to see the design of the feasting shelter.
One thing I'm learning to accept is that good things happen organically through just good conversations and not being so structured. And so we kind of arrived in the community, didn't really know where to go, and we ended up asking, oh, can we just sit around the fire? But then an elder came and talked to us and told us this really, really amazing story. But that wouldn't have happened if it were all planned out. So I think this unplanning and just letting the world go the way it is kind of a really nice way to go. And so we were also asked to light a fire to warm the drums. So they were really welcoming us, and they were really allowing us to be a part of this ceremony in this day. And so this is us at the end of the day presenting sort of our design option. And one of my favorite moments is watching these kids interact with the model of the feasting shelter and just beginning to be showing a really interest. And I think being the youth involved at that point to that extent was really rewarding to us. And so after that, and getting the design ready to go, we would go back to the university and start to draw and model. And one great thing working with the engineering faculty is that if we had a problem, we could just go run over to someone's office and ask them for structural details. So this was Nisha's office, and he was helping us with about these movable panels so we can just sort of discuss that. But it's this collaboration approach that really, really worked well. We would bug him constantly. And there's Farhood, he co-taught this course with me, and so I think I was like, no more bracing, Farhood. And that was sort of the final perspective of the shelter. And so the next step was making of the structure. So it was requested that the material be used by cedar, and that was by elders. And so we began to build this thing. So this is the computer team, and we built this thing on the alternative village on campus. And Elder Mead, with the help of Jillian, would always come and kind of talk to us and see what we're up to and ask those important questions, making sure we're not forgetting anything. And so while we were working and prefabbing the components on site, the community, Roxanne's crew, was getting the foundation prepared. So it was this really nice way of working together. And so, picture of the alternative village, and then community members probably cursing architectural and engineering drawings. Guaranteed. And then, so once we prefabbed all the components on site, we we put it in a shipping container and we sent it off to Shoal Lake 40. And while they were kind of still prepping for the slab, I don't know if you wanted to sort of talk about your intent with the shipping container.
Oh, yes. So when we start talking about the project, I also have a small committee that focuses on developing academic opportunities for Shoal Lake. And one of the ideas was for the youth to start a business out of CCAN. So we started planning this project, and he wanted to bring the supplies before I got to Powell. I said to Shawn, I was like, why don't you get a CCAN and store them in there and bring them down and donate it back to the community? But I told him what the intent was for the youth to use it as a youth-led project. So he said, we'll see what we can do, and yeah, that's our CCAN now. And I have Shawn over there. Say hello, Shawn. She's one of the youth that's been working with me on some of the youth-led activities. So this is one of the projects that we have on the go now. So they're starting to explore different kinds of businesses that they can use out of the CCAN. It was really exciting, and it's something that that the community does from the ground up again.
Mad panic to get the slab done.
Yeah.
Again, just working, community members working. And you brought in some special people for this too, right?
Yeah, we have, I'll show you here. So, these two are committee members here. This is Neil Bernstein. This is Greene. That's my buddy.
You see him with his shirt off there.
But he was the lead crew from the carpenter side, and this was his crew. He had a crew of 5. This is his brother, and this here is Clint Swan. He's worked with PCL for 13 years, so we were able to get him to come do the pour for us. And then while he did that, he's also teaching all these guys at the same time. So it was really amazing to do. It's probably one of the most exciting times of the project was doing pour.
And I think this is a really important picture of the build. So we have Eric and we have Aaron, the honey. And there's, it's just this really nice picture of them collaborating together, which Aaron became a crucial member because when we first arrived to site, we were like, okay, now what? Not all of us had really extensive carpentry experience, so Aaron and the community members really saved the day. They really, things started to happen when they got there. But you can see, Aaron's a really amazing guy who was really about teaching, and he was very patient and really helped us along this build. But it was a really nice, the construction process was really nice because everyone became friends. Joking and staying together, and you'll see later sort of what kind of things that we did. And there's more just erecting the first bench, which was a very exciting thing because it took us so long to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, it actually happened on video. I went live on Facebook, them erecting the first one because it's so massive, and I'm like, oh my goodness! And it was really, that thing is heavy. I don't know how many of you guys did it take to pull it up and move it?
Like 8, probably. And we also, from the alternative village, we had Marcel to help us quite a bit. He's standing over there, and he was a really great resource to sort of help us learn how to use the tools and everything. So that there's a structure, we're still standing it up, and it was really stressful, but it was really fun. The weather was amazing.
Super hot.
Yeah.
Super hot.
Which meant for swims, and so I think one of the most important things about this project was sort of what happened afterwards and those moments in between building. So, spending the night evenings out by a fire, swimming, the community members, Anito stayed with us often and he would go for a swim as well, and Percy. So that was really nice. And then also just how amazing the community and welcoming they are. We got to go fishing, flayed fish, and the next day he brought all this fried walleye to us, and it was just this really amazing thing. And this is sort of that night where we had our evening fire, singing Kumbaya, breaks, lots of swimming breaks. It was so hot, so fishing and swimming. And then again, sitting around, and Roxanne and Aaron would come and visit us too, and yeah, and I think the picture on the right is a really nice picture because it's sort of as we're departing from this project, and it's just like, I don't know, it just connections were made and relationship was built, and that's sort of what I felt, and that's where the success of this project is. So this is sort of the one of the last days of the project. There's Aaron with his shirt off, I told you. And this is sort of the building situated on site now. All completed. And that's everything. So now we're working on Shoal Design and Build 2.0, and that'll work within the same grounds of the spacing shelter, but it'll speak to community gardening and food sovereignty. And so we don't know what the thing is going to be, but it's being worked on right now, which is going to be really amazing. I also wanted to just mention to everybody that we have a students here started a committee, the Indigenous Planning Students Association, IDPCA. And it's a community to start really promoting Indigenous culture within the Faculty of Architecture, so it's pretty exciting, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay, are you able to answer some questions?
Sure.
We have about 15 minutes, so does anyone have any questions for our presenters today? I'll bring the mic over to you. Yes, you can send me some first.
When no one asks a question, I have to make one up. So that was excellent and really great. I did go to see the film the other night on the Freedom Road, and it was very inspiring, and it was standing there lonely and in WAG. So it was very impressive. And the whole time I was thinking, you know, what's going to be built along the road. And during the presentation, at certain moments I was having kind of anal, retentive thoughts like, what is the building code, you know? When you're building on a reserve, you're working with Indigenous people. But as you talked, it was more and more clear that it's collaborative and participatory and somewhat spontaneous thing on a certain level. On the other hand, we see some of the larger structures on site are pre-engineered structures that have kind of industrial have been brought in the past. So where the design, engineering on it was sort of prepaid or outsourced, you know? So I guess I'm asking two things. One is, how do you codify, or should you, my sense is you'll say no, but how do you codify a kind of Indigenous building code that can be used across North America? And the other thing is it time to have a satellite design build school there on site at Shoal, or would it be elsewhere?
I could speak to part of these questions and let Shawn jump in. To codify the building code for First Nations, it would be different for each community, right? Because everyone has ways of doing their own things, right? For me and my community, we've gone through so much together already that we're pretty solid and tight in how we plan together. And it takes a great deal to be able to bring everyone's ideas on the table and to be able to work to develop consensus at the end of the day. But we know what works for us, but I can't say for the rest of the communities. But that's why I keep emphasizing that starting from the ground up, working together and collaboratively to get to the end goal at the end of the day. So that's important. And when you talk about the satellite office, is we do a lot of strat planning in our community to start, now that we have a road, now we can start developing, right? So we have projects, so many of them now that are on the horizon or on the go, that we're currently awaiting on approval for a center of excellence, where we will have training and possibly more partnerships with the events, so we can have just that kind of training right in the community.
So that's kind of my dream, is that, an off-site place to make and do research would be this really amazing thing in the forest and in the community where it's kind of this collaborative thing. And that's my dream.
you could speak a little bit of the protocols, like to start the collaboration, to start the conversation, etc. And Shawn, how then the protocols and the conversations and the collaboration really affects the design process and the design per se?
Well, for the protocol process, it starts right from the beginning, right from that first initial visit that you have. And then again, it'll vary from community to community. So what it entails for us is the offering of that tobacco to an elder and telling them what your idea is. What they do is they go back, they go to ceremony, and then they come back, and sometimes they might say, no, it's not in the books. Or they'll say, yes, you want the blessing, but this is what you have to do. They'll give you a series of steps that you have to do along with it. Like Shawn mentioned, the tobacco ties, the offering, it could be like that. So there's different ways, depends on the elder too.
My part of the question, I think it's it's a learning experience, and I think from it is more collaboration. It's taking that idea, going back to the community and having more design shreds and talking, and I think for the next design build, that's going to be something that's going to be really help improve this design process. So it's just more communication together, more collaborative working, more workshops, more just I'm trying to understand each other.
Thanks very much for the wonderful talk. And Roxanne, this is a question for you. You and your community have been incredibly generous with your time and your knowledge and your traditions of the people in place. And you've invited people that, as Shawn pointed out, have never been to reserves, and also people that have been to reserves, and as you said, every community is different. You're continuing this relationship, which is a sign of that generosity that we find to be productive and useful, and obviously Shawn does as well. And I know you have a relationship, which is fantastic, and we need that in our schools. I guess what I'm wondering is, what would you like to see for in these projects, in these collaborations, for the benefit of the community more and more? Because clearly, the architecture is an excuse for the conversation. It's a thing to facilitate the dialogue in some way. So, from your perspective, what would you like the community to benefit from or to see happen in these relationships as they continue?
Well, I see what has evolved so far is the continued trust, the continued partnership, infrastructure. We want our community to grow. We can't do it on our own. So for us to have this relationship with the architecture and the engineering department gives us that start, right? It gives us that start, and then having that trust is a lot for us because we've struggled so long. So if universities can find ways to work with Indigenous communities to help them grow through their community development, through the academic, then that's awesome. And that's what we're trying to achieve. Our community was dying at one time, so this is an opportunity for us to develop as a community, to start crashing out and getting out there.
Okay, I don't see any other hands raised. So I think I'd just like to thank our two speakers today for joining us and for sharing this very important project and talking about the importance of relationship building between people, but also relationships with the land and to respect those relationships as well. I want to also bring attention to an event that's taking place on Thursday, November 28th, Freedom Road, which is the NFB documentary series that tells the story of the building of Shoal Lake 40's battle to build Freedom Road. It's actually going to be screened on campus. That film was directed by Angelina McLeod, who is a member of Shoal Lake 40, and she's also a graduate student here, so we're really, really proud of her. This film screening will take place at 4 p.m. in the Defoe Theater on November 28th. Also, our next